This is a World War II special episode about the B-17 Flying Fortress. The B-17 was designed to take the fight to the enemy across the Atlantic. This heavily armed bomber could fly for days without refueling, making it the perfect platform to wage war on the high seas. But how effective was it against U-boats? By 1943, German U-boats were proving to be a deadly threat to Allied convoys carrying vital supplies across the Atlantic. As the men and women of the merchant marine risked their lives to keep the flow of goods steady, the U-boat Wolfpacks began to have devastating results. By late 1942, more than 300 merchant ships had been sunk with almost 2,000 casualties. Something had to be done, and done quickly. Enter the B-17 bomber, a heavily armed flying fortress that could take the fight to the enemy and turn the tide in the Battle of the Atlantic. These massive aircraft were purpose-built for the long haul with a range of up to 2,000 miles and a top speed of 280 miles per hour. Its four engines were noisier than a Boeing 747, and its arsenal was just as fearsome. Two of the B-17's 5 main guns were mounted in a remotely operated turret at the rear of the plane, while the other three were placed in a ball mount for the pilot to fire upon the enemy. Additional smaller arms were also installed in the nose, and as was sometimes the case with the turrets. But the B-17's most important feature was its endurance. It could stay airborne for up to 16 hours at a time, which made it ideal for hunting down elusive German submarines. The crews would typically take off from an airbase in the UK and fly out over the Atlantic. Once they reached their patrol area, they would begin the long process of searching for enemy submarines. The U-boats were masters of concealment and would often hide just below the surface of the water, making them difficult to detect. But the B-17 crews were up to the task. They would fly in tight formation, their keen eyes scanning the ocean below for any sign of enemy activity. When they finally spotted a U-boat, the order to attack would go out, and the B-17 would dive towards the target. The heavily armed flying fortress opened fire, its bullets ripping into the submarine. Despite the B-17's firepower, the U-boat commanders were not easily deterred. Many of these submarines were built with special armor plating that made them resistant to damage from bombs and bullets. However, this resistance was not absolute, and many U-boats were eventually sunk after repeated attacks from B-17s. It wasn't all smooth sailing for the B-17 crews. They faced many dangers during their missions, including bad weather, mechanical problems, and enemy fighters. But through it all, they remained steadfast in their duty to protect the merchant ships and keep the U-boats at bay.